Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another Big Love Season 5 review. This is episode 8, The Noose Titans. This episode left me bothered. Like I felt energy draining out of me as I was watching the various scenes. I felt myself being upset with Margine at times, being upset with Nikki, being infuriated by the whole situation with Albie, feeling sorry for Verlin. I just had all these different emotions going on while watching. And I guess that's what a good movie or show is supposed to do. So I think that although there was so much going on here, that it was a good episode. So do me a favor, hit the like button as we jump into this. Whew. Okay. After seeing Cara with Greg at the wedding reception in the previous episode, Margie starts to suspect that there's something that is going on between Cara and her teacher, but she kind of wants to see it for herself. So she's asking Cara about Mr. Ivy or Greg. I always confuse the names between Don's son and him, so I think it's Greg. And about, Gary. She wants to know like what's going on with Gary and what's going on with Greg. And it's weird that she's asking these questions and Cara picks up on it, so she's not trying to tell her anything. Margie wonders if there's something that she should be worried about, especially considering what they're currently going through. That is uttered multiple times by all the adults in this family as if it's something that's on the kids, when what they're going through isn't on the kids, it's on these adults. So I think it's valid in her wanting to know that, but it's coming from the wrong person. So Cara starts spending more time having her study sessions, and it's clear they aren't studying. He is showing her pictures of siblings and nieces and nephews as Margine is watching the two of them looking very comfortable in the classroom. So she knocks on the door and she's like, I'm here to pick you up early. But since you're still, doing your stuff, I'm just gonna sit here and watch. Later during the evening, Margine is watching Cara closely. She sees her attempting to slip out. She's trying to follow her, but Barb interrupts and she is telling her how she had a conversation with Carl across the street and this Goji business is getting out of hand, and she needs for Margine to leave Pam alone. That us getting involved in their marriage isn't something that we should do. It's obvious that the marriage is unraveling and we just need to leave it alone. So Margine is trying to hurry up and finish the conversation so she can go about her business, which is being a detective and following Kara. But Barb is still talking. Barb's bringing up how they don't like this business and how they don't feel like it's profitable. And she's like, Barb, I hear you. I've already had this discussion with Bill. Basically, I don't need to hear it again from you. Can I go? So she's like, no, you can't go. We got to talk about this. And Margine tells her, Goji is fine, but you got to drop it. Margine leaves, follows her to Mr. Ivy's house, and she walks in. Like, she knocks on the door. He's thinking it's pizza. He opens it. It's Margine. She walks in and she's like, where's Carlin? And he's like, she's not here. And Margine's like, okay, come on. She's in full parent mode. She's like, come on now. I followed her here. I lost her in the courtyard, but it's obvious to me where she's at because I looked on all the mailboxes and hey, what do you know? I saw your name. So I decided that she's probably here. So he's like, she's not here, but she looks down and she sees her shoes on the floor. So the gig is clearly up. She calls him a teacher and says it's so wrong and that he should be ashamed of herself. And I get that this is a scene where I'm supposed to be upset with Mr. Ivy, and I am. But I'm also finding myself upset with Margine because I can't understand how Margine doesn't see that her situation is very similar to this. The only difference is Bill was not your educator. Bill was supposed to be someone who you were providing childcare for. Doesn't make it any better in my eyes. All of it is wrong. All of it is older men preying on little kids. So she's upset. And he's like, I love her. And that out of everybody, out of all of them, that Cara Lynn thought that, Margine would understand. Margie tells her to put on her shoes and get in the damn car. When I say this is a different side of Margine, it is a different side of Margine. So she tells him, don't you ever compare what you did with me and my marriage. You are hiding out with an innocent 15-year-old girl. Are you crazy? What in the hell were you thinking? Same thing that Bill was thinking, which Don pointed out to us many episodes ago. Bill was thinking the same thing when he met you, Margine, at 16. So she takes her home and once again brings it back to what the family is facing right now. But the family is facing things right now because of a 16-year-old Margine who decided to lie about her age, and because of a grown behind Bill that didn't even really care about her age because he didn't do his due diligence and making sure that she was legal. So they walk in, Nikki's there. She does not tell Nikki. Instead, she sees how easily Cara Lynn lies, because Cara Lynn tells her, that we were at the mall and we were just hanging out, and, they lost track of time or whatever. So you see Nikki leave, and you see Cara Lynn say that, he is devout. That this was his first time too, confirming that they did have sex. She wants to know how long it's been going on, and she tells her it's been for a few weeks. Margie tells her it's over. Let's go to the attorney's office. So at the attorney's office, we see Barb and Bill, and they're talking to their attorney of 10 plus years, Lee. He's probably so sick of them. She tells them, because they're talking about what happened when she was with the officers. Yeah. So she tells them that she was asked a whole bunch of questions, that they wanted to know who hired Margine and if Barb gave the interview and if she was given a 1099 for babysitting. She said it's a million questions about her age, with Barb continuously saying she wasn't sure. Barb, in my opinion, should be careful because she's so busy trying to protect Bill that she's not realizing that she herself is implicated in all of this. Bill, of course, thinks that he can get this thrown out, that they're just coming after him, all because he is a polygamist, talking about the word Mormon, and Lee's looking at him like he's crazy. Lee says, this is not just about you, Bill. This is about her too, because they feel like Barb procured Margine, meaning that she sought her out, that she found her. Barb is physically shaken by this, to the point where she walks out, tears are in her eyes as they're in the parking deck. She is trembling while Bill is trying to act like they pulled this out of thin air. Bill doesn't get it, but Barb does. Barb says, you're saying that, but did you see the look on Lee's face? It's not showing that they're just pulling this out of thin air. She's like, I've been a faithful, believer and a wife. And now with these allegations, I'm being labeled basically as an accomplice to grape. She tells him to hide the Drano because at this point she thinks she might drink it, meaning that this has her so distraught that she's thinking of unaliving herself. Now, I don't really think she was, but this is just how bad it is for her. So Bill still thinks that they have the upper hand, that they won't be prosecuted because he's a senator. That means absolutely nothing. We've seen it happen before. They don't care about that crap. Heather. It turns out that Heather is the reason why, well, I don't want to blame her as to why they're in what they're in because it's because of Bill, but it turns out that Heather is the reason why they are currently being looked into. She told the bishop about Margine being underage. The bishop reached out to somebody else. and that person talked to her father. So her father called the authorities. So now she's feeling guilty and that she played a part because it's created this investigation into Ben and his family. She says she can't even bring herself to come into the house. And Ben says, there's a lot going on. It's not just this situation, but with his grandmother, because now his grandmother is at a new place and they're taking turns at night to watch her to make sure that she gets used to it. He says he hasn't gotten a lot of sleep. And at this point, he just wants her to come inside because he can't hang out at her house, especially with what her father has done. And she just feels guilty and she doesn't want to. And Ben's like, okay, well, if it's bothering you that much, then maybe we have to do something. So later at night, we see Ben and Heather come into the kitchen as Barb is icing her cake. She's apologizing and she kind of starts rambling, saying how she loves the family and how, she sought her bishop out and it was meant to be private. She was seeking counsel from her bishop because she was confused about some things. And Barbara's like, confused about what things? Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? She says, so, at Christmas time with Margie, she said she was 16 when she stopped herself. And she said, my bishop called the stake president who called my dad. Barb is pissed. Ben says we better go because he sees how upset his mother is as we see Barb grab the cake that she was so delicately taking care of in icing and she hurls it at the window. I said, this is bad. Let's get to Nikki. So Nikki goes to help another woman escape. I'm going to play that clip because I want you all to get a little sense of the way that Nikki goes about doing things. All right, here we go.
Get in. What's wrong?
I can't do it. We've all been warned not to talk to you.
Because I'm here bringing the truth?
If he finds me, he'll lock me up.
Your husband is not going to find you at the shelter.
How do you know?
Because Safety Net has helped other women escape.
Nikki means well, but her approach is often off. And I think she doesn't get how being tender in this, being more relatable, other than just her saying, I was you too, and now look at all the things that I have. Being like, I get it, I was scared too. I'm just now figuring out some things that I was told that was false. That's not the approach that she goes with. Okay, let's continue.
I told you all this.
No. I changed my mind. I'm sorry.
Look, I was just like you. Scared, trapped, no better than a slave. Look at me now. I'm legally married. I have nice things. I live in my own house. Don't you want a life like mine?
You see what I mean? She means well, but it's the approach. It's the way that she goes about doing it that comes across as a little bit abrasive to me. But you tell me what you think. So let's get to Dawn. Dawn has a heart-to-heart with Bill. Bill is thinking that he's going to go into this actually cluing in Dawn on some of the things that's going on, letting him know about the investigation into him and Margine. But Dawn has his own stuff to talk about. So Dawn lets him know that he's been struggling, that he spends time in his backyard alone, that he sleeps in his bunker, that he's seeing a psychiatrist, that he is on medication that is allowing him to calm down enough just so he's able to step outside of his house. This is bad for Dawn because it sounds to me like Dawn is struggling with PTSD. It sounds to me like after what he's been through, after being attacked, after being shoved into a lake of ice cold water, that he is struggling. Not only that, but he has to deal with the stress of being friends with somebody like Bill. So Bill wants to know why Don didn't tell him this. And it quickly becomes clear why he didn't say anything. Because Bill can't handle the truth. Because Bill is very confrontational. Because if you don't hear what you want to hear, Bill, then you go on this overly aggressive, accusatory mode where you're just belittling people. So Don tells him about all of this. And he's like, do you just want to take a step back? Don's like, it's all become too stressful for me. I can't cope. And he wants out. He has found a way through a person that is paying him basically 3 times what his share is actually worth. The person he reveals is Albert Grant, which infuriates Bill. I'm not saying he doesn't have a reason to be upset, but after everything that's gone on and with the fact that they look like they're losing Home Plus, I don't blame him for wanting to back out. So Albie, he says, called him 3 times, that Albie's banker went to see Peg, and he tells Bill that at this point, I don't know what I'm going to do. The shares are worth 35 and he's offering me 80. I don't know if that's 35,000, $35 per share. I don't know what it means, but either way, he's offering him 80. At this point, he says the stores aren't even going to make it. And he tells Bill, like, not only do I think I should sell my shares, but I think you should too, which Bill can't even fathom turning his business over to Albie. He can't believe that his friend would be willing to share or to sell his shares with somebody who tried to kill him. He calls it betrayal. Bill tells him, you're being tempted by the adversary. And Don ends up walking out, saying that he can't take it anymore. He's going to sell. So we see Bill go back to the compound. For the compound to be further away, these people sure don't mind taking trips up and down to drive however many hours to go to the compound. So we see Nikki's mother back in her rightful place, managing things. Bill lets her know that even though he's not on the calendar, he wants to see Albie. She sees that a familiar face is there, and she ends up buzzing him in. He goes in, tells Albie, you're not going to get my business. Albie brings up Nikki and how she's taking women off of the compound. And after all this, and after this last one, that he is ready to bring charges against them for false imprisonment and kidnapping. Bill tells him, you can't even do all of that. At this point, my business and my business partner are off limits. Albie is standing there gloating because he knows that he has Bill where he wants him. He has the upper hand because he has his hands in Bill's business. So he's like, Bill, little by little, meaning little by little, I'm taking everything away. Well, what Albie doesn't know is that Bill himself has something up his sleeve, and he brings in a guy by the name of Madison. We find out that not only is Albie the what would he be? The cousin of, wait, is this Albie's nephew? Oh, I don't remember. I have written down here that Madison is Albie's nephew, but I'm not sure if it's Albie's nephew or if it's Adeline's nephew, because she said something about his mother. Either way, it's a relative, right? So Madison comes in, and apparently in the past, Albie was inappropriate with him. I don't know if he was a child when this happened or if he was a teen, if they were both the same age, if they were both consenting. But in order to keep it hidden for years, Roman had been paying this gentleman's family to keep it quiet so that they kept it silent. So Bill is threatening Albie with letting this information be known. So he tells him, you stay out of my business or I'm going to report you to the authorities. And the days of you being this so-called prophet will be over. Albie acts calm and collected in the scene, but he is pissed because we see him with Verlin and he is pacing back and forth as he's slamming things on the floor and hitting the chair and whatever else. And he tells Verlin that he's been busy keeping peace between the Greens and the Walkers, that he's been the one who's been purifying the compounds, and he has a vision. But here he is getting spat on. He says it's time for that insolent suburban shopkeeper to go to his grave. He has now hired Verlin because he wants him to unalive Bill. He tells him what you're going to do is you're going to contact Bill. You're going to ask him to meet you somewhere, say that you have information that will help him that about me, and you're willing to sell it to him. Verlin wants money, and Albie's like, is everything about money? He tells him, you over here worried about Rhonda and making sure that Rhonda's taken care of, but I can get you women that are better than Rhonda. I can get you women, his words, that are more supple to receive your seed and grow your pride. I said, what the fudge? Women to receive your seed, younger women. Rhonda is young already. Why does he need a younger woman? So he offers him $2,000. I felt bad for Verlin at the end of this because it's very clear that Verlin was troubled, and I do think that he was just trying to find a way to get out of it. So Verlin's like, look, what I'm going to need is 10,000, not 2. I'm going to want 5 up front. Albie agrees. We see Bill tell Lois at her new place while he's watching her that he's in trouble because Margene was 16 when he married her. Lois doesn't have a reaction to it. I don't know if it's because she is out right now and she's not realizing what's going on mentally, or if it's because it's just something she's so familiar with. The next morning, Bill lets the wives know that a summons has been issued for Margene. Barb points out that a summons makes this official. Margie is in denial. She doesn't think that they have anything to be ashamed of because, in her words, it wasn't grape. They go back and forth about what's going on. Bill talks about how they found unity in marriage and divorce and in adoption, and now they're going to find it in the face of indictment as well. I laughed when he said it because you're such a clown if you feel like you being indicted on this matter is going to unify you all, because I just see your family being torn apart in different ways. Like, if it's not done by the law, it's going to be done by somebody else. So we see Cara fill in Ben on her activities with the math teacher in hopes that he will be able to convince Margie to let it go and not tell Nikki. Ben is upset because he cannot believe that Carolyn would do this, especially after his mother divorced his father just for her to be adopted. She doesn't want Nikki to freak out. He agrees to talk to Margie because he doesn't want his parents to find out about this. He calls it effed up and says that it's got to stop. She says that he wants to know why she did it, and she says that it's because he loves her. There's very much so a void there, and I think that Ben is the only one who picks it up based on what we see later on. So we see the lady that Nikki rescued, the one that I showed you the clip of, and she is ready to go. She's talking to Barb. She wants to go. She feels like she's being held hostage by Nikki, while Nikki walks in and she's upset that Barb is willing to buy her a bus ticket, but she says Nikki she wants to go. So Nikki says, they got a shelter for you. There's a room at the shelter and they're prepared to pay your first month's rent. But the girl misses her husband and she wants to go back. So Barb says, you cannot save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I think that Nikki forgets that just a couple seasons ago, she was upset by people leaving the compound. She was the same person that Rhonda pointed out was trying to take her back. So for Nikki to not understand why it's so hard for these ladies makes me wonder if Nikki truly has done the work or if this is just making her feel good, because I don't get how you can't see why this is so difficult. Nikki thinks that she's helping. She says that this is her calling, that this is her work, but it clearly isn't because you're not listening. So on the hill, Margie's boss is there. He's working his magic. He wants Bill to approve this, I think it's a soccer stadium that he's trying to build. Bill lets him know he wants no parts of it because he doesn't believe in his business model. This is when, Mr. Michael, the Goji boss himself, says that he built a $1 billion business and he has all these people working under him and blah, 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 blah. And that he told Margie that her family didn't seem supportive. And Bill's like, you don't tell my wife anything like that. We support her. So Michael says, there's a buzz going on about you. People who live in glass houses. And Bill cuts the conversation short and he leaves. The boss later tells Margie that he feels like she's in a cult. Like he has a conversation with her in the office and tells her that what she's in is in a cult. Bill approaches Senator Barnes to talk about safety net, and Barnes tells him that, the police paid me a visit. They wanted to know a lot about your third wife and her age, but I told them I have no information on the matter. This is when Bill asks him to please pass on a message to the church. Let him know that if his wives and his family are left alone and that no charges are brought forth, then he'll resign. I said, Bill, the fact that you're sitting there and saying that now makes you seem guilty, which he is guilty. It just proves that you're guilty. And it makes me wonder what exactly he thinks the church is supposed to do when it's gotten to this point where it's being investigated. This goes beyond the church. He says he doesn't want the church to see, not the church, his children to see Barb as a procurer or him as a grapist. It's called statutory rape for a reason. And I feel like Bill and Margene are forgetting that if this were another family, they would see a problem in this, as evident by the way Margene is acting about Carlin's situation. So we see that the wives and Bill are at Lee's office. He instructs Margie that she needs to answer questions as yes, no, or I cannot recall. Nothing else. Yes, no, or I cannot recall. Of course, it doesn't go that way. The ladies start arguing back and forth about whether or not Barb did anything because they feel like Barb was trying to root for Anna, and then it comes into no, Margene, you were, blah, 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 blah. As they're doing this, Nikki then brings up how she wants a different lawyer. She does not feel protected. She does not like that she was maneuvered around with her financial privileges because with her becoming a first wife, she thought she was going to be able to do that. And she feels like Lee ripped her off. Barb feels like she would say that, but that's not what happened. Nikki says, Barb, you always get what you want. Barb says, just like you got my husband, and then you went and got resealed without me. I said, okay, Barb. Barb was holding that so she could drop it. You can see that both Margene and Bill are surprised by what she's saying, and it's like a oopsie. But Nikki so smugly points out that you didn't even want to participate. Barb says, oh, that's how you absolve yourself of the decency of telling me what was happening. And Bill says they didn't want to hurt her. To me, this is a mess. We see Margene questioned by the officers. She's asked various questions. The ones that are worth noting are she's asked how old she was when they began to work. She says she can't recall. She's then asked what did she do when she realized that she was attracted to Bill. And she says she talked to her mother. And the detective says, and what did your mother say? And she says that my mom pointed out that Parissa Presley was 15 when she began dating Elvis, so that I should just go for the gusto. I said, how on earth do you not realize that this means that you were probably under 18 when you got with Bill, not that there was just an age difference. So as she's sitting there, you can see Lee look like, didn't I tell her to say yes, no, or I don't recall? That's not what she's doing here. She is shown her actual birth certificate and she starts to cry. She tells him that this is mean-spirited. She's talking to the detective, and he says, let's disregard the legal questions. Did you ever ask yourself why you, like why they targeted you? Do you think about how your life would be different if you didn't meet him? And she says, they love me. He says 16, 18, either way, you were too young. I agree with him. Lee's asks if they're finished, and the detective says we're just getting started. We see Nikki's mom telling Nikki to get Madison to go away. This is the crap that often irritates me about these cults. They know that there are bad things going on, and rather than protecting people, they're more concerned about hiding the perversion than addressing it. They're more concerned about re-victimizing victims while they protect the perpetrators. And it just gave me Warren vibes, because in the book that we're currently, well, think I'm going to be reading the last one by the time this comes out. In the book that we were reading, Lost Boys, one of the things that comes out is that his brothers and other men, Warrens, knew and participated in some of the perversive acts. I'm keeping it, PG for the content that's in this section, but they knew and they hid it and they protected him. Even his parents at times knew. So why is it that we're not making it out there, and instead, after all this, after she's seen all that transpired, after the fact that Kathy and others are no longer here, that Nikki's mom still is trying to protect her son? It's crazy. So she's talking about how the family was affected by it, how their father convinced Madison to go away, and how it will be almost as if the this thing is brought up all over again. Nikki tells her mom there's a thing called justice, and sometimes chickens come home to roost. Understand, Nikki, that applies to Bill as well. This is when Ben approaches Nikki and tells Nikki that Carolyn needs to see somebody, that she needs to talk with someone about the death of her father because she has no friends. And Nikki's like, she has me. But she doesn't like the comment about no friends because she feels like she doesn't need friends. She's better off without them, because what may happen is she may get friends like Heather, who's a Judas because she told things. He tells her to back off about Heather. She didn't know what will happen, and she will be welcomed in these houses. I said, oh, Ben. Nikki doesn't believe that she needs therapy. And that's Nikki's problem, because Nikki, you too need it. People, she says, have to solve their own problems. Carolyn is on track for college. She's fine. Ben says she needs help. If you're too blind to see it, maybe you don't deserve to be her mother. I don't like the way that Ben is being disrespectful and talking to this adult woman, but I do like the fact that he is realizing that this isn't right. I like it, but I don't like it. I myself sound like a hypocrite. Y'all get what I'm saying here? Like, it's messed up because he's a child talking to her like this, but he's not wrong. He's right. He's right. He says, if you don't find somebody for her to talk to, I'm going to find someone. Ben is very much so a person that legitimately cares about people. We see it with Rhonda and we see it here. So the truth comes out. Nikki follows Kara as she's about to leave, and she sees that she has an overnight bag. Margene just happens to step out at the same time looking for Bill and I think Barb. So she comes out saying she's sneaking off. And she's like, no, I'm not. And Margene says, yes, you are. So now she feels pressured. Carlin finally reveals that she has a relationship with Mr. Ivy. She says she's in love with him. And Nikki says it's a schoolgirl crush. Margie says it's more than that. She wants to know, Nikki does, who else knows? She says only Ben. This is when Nikki tells her not to tell another soul. She says, I don't want anyone to know you shared. No, I don't want anyone to know how you shamed yourself. I said, oh my goodness. Margie is telling her that they love each other. I'm going to call it what it is, though. This is abuse, especially because we see Nikki go from the verbal attack to her getting physical because she grabs Carlin up and tells her we're not talking about this as she drags her to go back in the house. And I'm calling it physical because you hear Carlin say, "Stop it, you're hurting me." With Nikki saying, "Not half as much as you've hurt me." Lady, you once again, let me remind you, have been out of this child's life for a significant point in time. And here you are trying to talk about how she's hurt you. You, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, y'all tell me what you think, but Nikki shouldn't be able to say that. So she's so angry that she ends up going to Mr. Ivy's house and she has her daughter in tow and she threatens him, tells him that he is either going to leave or she's going to have him prosecuted. At this point, he isn't trying to hear what Nikki's saying. He just wants to make sure that his girl is good. Nikki doesn't want him to talk to her and she's like, "So why exactly am I over here?" So Carlin is hearing all the things that Nikki's saying about how she'll prosecute this and do that. And Carlin looks at him and he's like, she says, "She's bluffing." I said, what in the world? She proceeds to walk around her mother, go beside him and say, "I will be 16 in 4 months and I want to get your permission to be married." Nikki cannot believe what she is hearing. Nikki says, "Never. After everything the family put itself through to adopt you, what is the matter with you? You're all smiley and nice and act like such a good girl, and then you do this?" Here's the thing. Kara is a product of all of her environments. The one that she's had at Nikki's home and the one she grew up with on the compound. She has learned that she has to portray herself as a certain person in order to get the things that she desires. Kara didn't want to be adopted. So all the stuff that you're going through isn't on Kara. It is on Bill for being with a young girl and Margene for lying. So she tells her mother that this is a devout man. And she says, Nikki does, "I've spent my life to destroy his kind." And she proceeds to start hitting him and punching him. And it is very clear that although Mr. Ivy is wrong, that this isn't about Mr. Ivy. This is about all of the Romans and all of the Albies and all of the others of this world that have hurt Nikki. The JJs, it's not about this. Y'all tell me what you think. This is about Nikki and what's been done to her, and she sees that it could happen to her daughter. So she says, "Please don't do this to me," because he's blocking her punches and he ends up holding her arms. And she's like, "Please don't do this to me," and they leave. So Margene fills Bill and Barb in on everything that happened, letting them know that she was interrogated for 5 hours, that they have her original birth certificate, that they asked about Barb, and they wanted to know about child abuse, and they asked about the access to UEB funds, and if they're living beyond their means. They asked about the Greens and the Walkers and their relationship to them. And he says this is because a safety net. They feel like I'm using safety net as a cover, which he isn't. But because your hands aren't clean, it's going to make it seem like you are. So Bill tells them that I've offered to resign from the Senate if they leave us alone. And Barb can't believe what she's hearing, especially after everything that they've given up and sacrificed. He thinks it will keep them from like coming after them. He says, "If I go down, we're going to be through. Instead of being the man that led to rebirth of the principal, I'll be the man that, basically brought its death." So Barb tells Nikki it's time to utilize her influence and talk to Albie because at this point they're hanging on by a thread. We see Bill later get a call from his attorney, tells him that they're going to go after him for contributing to the delinquency of a minor, spiritual marriage, and statutory grape. He could face up to 20 years. Bill says, "Grape, I was ready for polygamy. I was ready for polygamy, but grape makes this a nightmare." We see Nikki take Barb's advice and she goes to talk to Albie, but she runs into Verlin first. He tells her, Albie wants to kill your husband and he thinks I'm going to help him do it. He says, be careful around him. But as usual, Nikki doesn't think. Nikki runs off at the mouth, causing problems for herself and others because she announces to Albie, you think you can kill Bill and your problems will be over. Albie wants to know who said that. Albie is angry that he has lost his wives because of Nikki and because of Bill. He calls Nikki and her daughter whores and says that Bill is the whore master, and Nikki slaps him in his face. She says, we know why Laura left you. We know about Madison. And then she takes it a step further, claiming that Dale unalived himself because of Albie, that he rather have hung himself than remained in the outer darkness with Albie. She tells him to stay away from Bill, the Stores, and their family. And she says, believe me when I tell you this, we will destroy you. As she begins to walk out, Albie closes the door and blocks her. Adeline comes in later. There is no Nikki to be seen, saying, I heard Nikki was here. What's going on? I can see in your eyes you're up to something. Don't hurt anyone. Seriously. But he doesn't listen to any of that. He's taking Nikki hostage. And he goes as far in as to she's in the closet with duct tape over her mouth when he's having this conversation with his mother. So all that's going on. Margene is talking to Bill and Barb crying because she feels like she's in a cult, especially after the conversation that she had with her boss. Barb is pissed because after all of this, after everything that's gone on, that Margene still doesn't get it. Margene says that the juice gave her faith. Like this whole thing is what led her to her faith, which it did. While Bill feels like they're going through all of this stuff because of Margene. And you, Bill, it's easy for you to blame it on Margene, but it was because of you. Because if you would have been satisfied with your two wives, then this wouldn't have happened. So Margene later leaves a message after taking some time to think, telling her boss Michael that she can't continue to work with him if he thinks that they are a cult. After digging a 5-foot hole, Verlin wants his $5,000. So he comes to Albie's office, tells him that he did the hole, he wants his money. But Albie's like, we got other matters to deal with, like an apostate. Verlin doesn't want to deal with that. He wants to go. Albie tells him, you aren't leaving me. There are tapes of you reporting to me, tapes about your attempt to kill Bill's partner. Now, here's the thing. Had he recorded them, it would have implicated Albie as well. But I don't think that Verlin is realizing that. I think just the matter of him saying it has him scared. So now he feels like he's obligated to continue on with this. So he's telling him he doesn't want to do it. He's like, there has to be a strategy. We don't have anyone in place. And Albie points out that when crimes happen on Juniper Creek, you don't get prosecuted for it, which is true because we've seen that with Kathy and we've seen it with Joey, with what he did to Roman. And we've seen that with JJ and what Adeline did to him. And we saw what JJ and what he did to others. So he's right. You don't get prosecuted. Look at Lois and all the things that she's done to Frank. So he says, you're going to do it. He gets Verlin to take him to this place so that he can unalive Nikki. He has a gun pointed at Nikki as she's on her knees, hands behind her back. Verlin says, let her go. She's your sister. She starts giving childhood memories, talking about how one time he saved her when they were in the cold water, that she understands him. He says, you can't understand what I've been pushed to by the fallen world and your power hungry husband, but he's power hungry as well. None of them see the part that they play. None of them. So Nikki is trembling, saying that she doesn't want to die, that he shouldn't do this. And he aims the gun at her to unalive her. And instead he fires a shot at Verlin. It hits him like in this area. And I don't know if it was Nikki crying out or Verlin, because Verlin seems shocked. You see the expression on his face as he's shaking and doing like this, looking at him like, how could you? But Verlin is another victim of the cult because he really didn't want to do this. And here he is in desperation trying to get money for his family, trying to save Nikki, even though he knows what he's with this crazy man. And then he unalives him again, and he ends up hitting his head on a rock. But I think he shot him in the face. I can't remember. Either way, Verlin is gone. So Nikki is trembling, and he comes very, very close to her, and he touches her face like this, and he says, "This is who we are." And then he holds her by like her collar. "This is who we will always be. I don't want to kill you, Nikki. You're my sister and I love you." He does like this to her face, and he walks away. Bill is talking to Barb and Margie, letting them know that he's going to be indicted. Nikki walks in looking like what she's been through, and he says that he can get up to 20 years, and that's where the episode ends. Y'all, this was a doozy. So heavy. Anyways, let me know what you thought of this one. If there's something that I left out that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. Like the video as it helps the channel, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Until next time, you know what to do.